Buckle up. Three big headlines driving the EV trade today. First up, Lucid Motors zipping higher. Its Air Dream EV receiving an official EPA range rating of 520 miles on a single charge. That tops its competitors by more than 100 miles. Meanwhile, Ford cementing its name in the space as it begins pre-production of its all-electric F-150 Lightning truck at its Michigan plant. That model set to go on sale next spring. And bringing up the rear, General Motors recommending that Chevy Bolt owners park at least 50 feet away from other vehicles. That's a warning tied to its battery recall. For reference, 50 feet, that's a 5-story building or so, about 7.5 Guadamis. So who is winning this EV race? It's interesting. They don't comment about what happens to the driver inside. They're just saying just park far away from other cars to save the other cars, I guess. But I don't know. Guy, what do you think here? Who's winning the EV race?
Well, I don't know who's winning, but I tell you what stock I think might be poised to win. I think it's Ford. And, you know, we've talked about Jim Farley a number of times. And if you look at the chart, this downtrend from the middle of June has been broken, I think. And just in terms of valuation, you know, they're going to earn $1.90 a share. You put a 10 multiple on it, you have a $19 stock. I think they're probably best suited. Now, GM is as well. But you point about 5-story building. I mean, that's sort of, you know, a leap of 5-story building, but I ain't parking my car 5 stories away. I mean, think about where we live. Nobody has 50 feet to park anything away. It's crazy. It's madness. So letter F to me gets it done. I think it should trade higher. I think 19 is the target.
I mean, I guess you can do that if you're living on a prairie or something like that, but, you know, you might not be driving that Bolt. Jeff Mills, you know, in the mix of this conversation is the notion that Tesla's not the only game in town. Ford's not the only. I mean, Rivian, this massive IPO is on the horizon. That's a company that is partly backed by Ford as well as Amazon. I mean, there are other ways to play this space.
There are, and I think that's been the knock against Tesla for a little while, that this competition was coming, and now I think you're actually starting to see it. So I've been wrong on Tesla for a long time, but I do think that that's a potential headwind to further price appreciation there. The GM story is a little ridiculous, but I do think companies like GM and Ford have a big opportunity here. We've talked about GM for a long time, their $35 billion spending commitment over the next 5 years. I mean, this is a massive opportunity, and they're putting their money where their mouth is. And I think at 8 times, it's probably too cheap right here. And just to go back to Tesla for a second, obviously GM is not Tesla, and Tesla has a head start and advantage in all kinds of different areas. But when you're talking about a stock like GM, $80 billion market value versus a stock like Tesla at a $400 billion market value, that gap is probably going to close. So after the GM sell-off, I still want to own it here.
Tim?
The Chevy Bolt is nowhere on the radar screen of GM's forward-looking both EM and Ultium battery and their technology and autonomous analysis. It's not. It's meaningless. It's a cash cost here, and clearly for a company that's been focused also on free cash flow and running a very efficient business and being profitable, that's disappointing. But look, I think the Chevy Bolt is an inferior product, and it's not what GM's hanging their head on and where the technology for the future is. And I think GM's talked about the commitment they've made and the amount of money that they've thrown at it. And it's actually dwarfed Ford. I'm long Ford and GM, and I think Ford's news today is where they continue to pepper the headlines out there where they're combining the concept of EV and investment with the most certainly profitable car in North America, and arguably one of the most popular, if not the most popular car in North America. Those are great headlines. That's a company that obviously is moving in the right direction, but I know you'd expect me to say this about the Bolt, so I'm not listening to that. It doesn't really mean a lot to me.